All right, good evening. Welcome to the second episode of the Prep Zone Football Hour. Joining you here tonight is Mike Rideout, sports director of the Main Street DailyNews.com, and Philip Crutchfield from the Prep Zone, as we did last week. I'm your host, Marty Palma. Tonight, we will take a look at week one of high school football here in the 2022 season. A lot of interesting things happening last week, Thursday and Friday, and then around 7:30, we will have a guest. So we're trying to do this every week, have a couple of guests. We'll have the voice of the Fort White Indians, Shane Morgan, coming up at 7:30 tonight. But I want to thank those who are joining us tonight. We are on YouTube. Philip, tell everybody where we are tonight.
We're on YouTube at the Prep Zone Altogether. We're on Twitter, the Prep Zone, and Facebook Live as well currently.
Right. So, guys, we were at Citizens Field Thursday night for the opener of the season, really, and almost didn't play that night. But of course, I guess it's good we did, because Friday night you guys were at Citizens Field and there wasn't a game.
Yeah, and it really looked like the weather was better on Friday than it was on Thursday. So I held out hope that we might play, but we did about a 30, 40-minute pregame show thinking that we were going to play. Hank Roan, former Gator, also former Gainesville Hurricane, the head coach of the Newberry volleyball team, is my color commentator, or was my color commentator for that game. But Philip, even though it looked from a weather standpoint early like we might be okay, then all of a sudden the rain started coming down. It had already been lightning, but I was still hopeful until I saw the rain coming down. I'm like, well, after what happened on Thursday night with the field conditions, I just don't see them playing.
I think the field was in as good a shape as it could have possibly been after that Thursday night game. You could tell that they put a lot of effort in that day trying to get it ready. But I think I read an article that said 32,000 lightning strikes in the area.
Wow. Oh my gosh.
For Friday. And, it was – I think if it had just been rain, probably could have gotten it done. But the lightning was intense. And, being in the press box, it always gives you a little pause with all the metal around you. But, they had to make that call for the safety of the kids. I was glad to see a lot of games get made up, though, on Saturday and teams not get too far behind overall.
Yeah, that's the good news. Those games, well, as far as we know, I haven't heard if the Ocala game will be made up. They played only a quarter. Newberry and Santa Fe played till about 1, 2 in the morning on Friday into Saturday morning. So they finished the game, and what a game that was. Newberry came back and won by 7. And then, as you said, GHS and Vanguard ended up playing Saturday morning at 11 a.m. And I guess Gainesville probably would have been happy if you just played Friday night, because that didn't turn out well going to Ocala at all.
No,
but
in fact, it was their worst loss since they lost by 49 to Vanguard in 2016. So it was a pretty, embarrassing is a nice word, I think. They were taking some hits on social media, but yeah, that's not good for Gainesville High School. We knew that they might be down. They didn't have their quarterback this year or their running back. They both transferred to Williston, not to mention they really graduated a lot of talented seniors from last year's district championship team. But I wouldn't have guessed that they would lose 68-0 to Vanguard. Not to take anything away from Vanguard, because they've been in the region final year in and year out, but that was a beating.
Yeah, and 56-0 at halftime. I mean, that's just that should never happen to Gainesville High, really.
Mike, I did notice when we did get to see them come out to do stretch at Citizens Field prior to the lightning kicking in. And it looks, you could tell that's a very young team.
Yeah.
And they're young and they're low on numbers. So you get into that situation where you're up against a team like Vanguard that has upper echelon talent in this area as it is. It's just, it was kind of a perfect storm for a bad day for Gainesville High School. So, and we know Doc Pollard can call plays on game day. So it's, I just think it's the youth on the team. And And unfortunately, that's why they call it growing pains. They're going to have to go through it, and it's going to be painful sometimes. But that's the hallmark of a young team. They got to pay their dues and hopefully be competitive in the future. But they're going to learn from this experience.
That's a lot of dues to pay week one. That's a lot of dues to pay to open the season. But they're going to have to hit the road to Orlando this week to play Bishop Moore. So it's not going to get any easier for GHS. But on the other, we'll talk about that a little bit later. On the other side of the coin, how about East Side? And Philip predicted this, and I think we all ended up going along with it. But East Side goes to PK Young and wins, and that game had to be played Saturday morning as well because of the weather on Friday night. They played at 9:30 on Saturday morning at PK Young, and East Side won 48-21.
Right, and that's the on the other side of that youth curve. East Side has now got some guys who have matured, whose bodies have developed, who's been in the weight room, and they've taken that step, and you can see it on the field. Holden Johnson with 3 touchdowns, Chris Bishop with 2 rushing touchdowns. So just a solid performance. I had the opportunity. I watched it online through NFHS, so was able to watch the game from there. And they Eastside looked good. PK, it looked to me just like their first group of guys. They've got some talented kids. They may have a depth issue though. So once they got a little tired and we're having to cover with some backups, you could see it show up.
Yeah, and that kind of works really both ways. I got a chance to talk with Kevin Doling, PK Young's coach, about that game, and he said there were really quite a few things that led to the loss. But the first thing he mentioned, he said, first and foremost, that's a vastly improved football team under Coach Hoskins. He was the right man for the job. As you can see, the enthusiasm and excitement for kids to come out and play football again. He mentioned that helped their depth situation. And in games like theirs or for PK, which and you got guys going both ways, etc. Doling also mentioned they had cramps, exhaustion. So not being able to rotate guys in and out like Eastside was able to do because they had a nice luxury with a pretty deep team. So depth was certainly, I think, a big factor in that football game.
Right. And for Eastside, we will be at Citizens Field on Thursday night for Eastside's home opener against Keystone Heights, who hasn't played yet. So that'll be an interesting game Thursday night. We'll see if Eastside can go 2-0. And then Friday night, you guys will be at Citizens Field again. And you'll see Buchholz take on Sarasota Riverview. And that was the game Thursday night that we opened the season with between Buchholz and Columbia, a game that was delayed nearly an hour and a half for weather. But they decided to play after I think every administrator for both schools was on the field, looking at the field, principal, athletic director, coach. We didn't think we were going to play because the field was underwater. Of course, there had been a lot of lightning that night as well, but they decided to play, and Buchholz got the game in, and not without some weird incidents going on later in the game, but in the fourth quarter. But Buchholz wins, and pretty good win for them week 1 against Columbia, as they'll play Sarasota Riverview this week. But yeah, that was not a great start for Citizens field conditions on Thursday night.
And Sarasota Riverview in 4S. So they're a big school, a team that was in the postseason last year. They got beat though by Seminole, 48-0. So we'll see if they're as good as they were last year. Obviously, Seminole is a very good team, but for Buchholz, big win for the Bobcats, and big plays. We saw Creed Whittemore run for a 66-yard touchdown.
Mm-hmm.
They also had the pick 6 by Jakari Kelly. That's the second pick 6 in as many weeks. He had one in the preseason as well. And then we saw Hamilton catch a touchdown pass from really the defense. I thought kind of set the tone in that game. They held Columbia, I want to say, to 51 yards in the first half. Really did a good job of shutting down Columbia. And Tyler Jefferson, he struggled. I think he's still got some things to learn. I think Columbia will be pretty good moving forward. Buchholz may end up being the best team that they play this year. In fact, I talked to Columbia's coach after the game, and he mentioned their game coming up against Union County this week, and he said that their quarterback plays both ways. Whittemore doesn't play both ways, so he
Right.
was talking about some favorable matchups this week in their game against Union County, but Jackson just said that Buchholz may be the best team that they're going to face this year.
I agree with that. I actually think the conditions actually probably kept it from being worse than it was. It limited the Buchholz edge players from having those long, quick, fast runs. They've got a lot of talent on the edge that they caught a few balls, but it wasn't like what I think it would have been on a fast track. But I was really impressed with the defensive ends from Buchholz. They really kept Jefferson in a box, and you could see kind of the game plan for Columbia was run Tyler Jefferson and take shots. He really only hit the one deep shot. And the other quarterback for Columbia, his name evades me. I apologize. He had a good touchdown. Other than that, Columbia was in a box all night.
Yeah, there was one moment where I was just about to look that up. For some reason, I can't remember his name either, but they brought in the quarterback number 2, and he immediately led them down the field for a touchdown drive, although it was helped by 45 yards in Buchholz penalties. But he threw a touchdown pass right down there in the left corner of the end zone, which got Columbia back in the game at the time. But the second half, Tyler Jefferson played, and he struggled. I mean, he just really did. He threw an interception right to Buchholz. The backup quarterback threw the pick 6, though, which after he had led them to a touchdown, and the next drive, he throws an interception, which Shakari Kelly takes back. And it was a short, about 25 yards for a touchdown. But he just threw the ball right up in the middle of the field, and it was basically – there were 3 Buchholz players there. So, but once again, Buchholz, we expect them to be really good defensively, and they are. They're very good. And, as you said, Sarasota Riverview losing to Seminole, which isn't a bad thing, because Seminole's a good team, but I don't know. It's going to be tough for them to come up here and beat Buchholz too on Friday night. But, yeah, I think it's impressive to beat Columbia. You mentioned Columbia and Union County. We'll talk about that a little bit later. Both teams 0-1, though. Union County lost in Jacksonville at University Christian, and Scoria might be a little bit surprised. They were beaten 33-14 by the Christians.
Yeah, I was actually looking for my roster. I had a Columbia roster sitting right here, and of course now I can't find it. But the quarterback, the backup quarterback that came in was Evan Umstead. And if you remember, Buchholz committed 3 big penalties on their first scoring drive. So Buchholz kind of helped them out a little bit. But then also, Philip, just to follow up your point about those defensive ends, Gavin Hill and also Kendall Jackson are both going to be playing Division I football. We know that Gavin Hill has already committed to the University of Florida. Kendall Jackson does have a Florida offer. So that is two very good defensive players for Buchholz. Trying to remember what the other question was, Marty. I'm sorry. Columbia's game against Union County. Yeah, I wrote about that today, in that this is what would be considered bounce back week. You hear coaches say you make the most improvement from week 1 to week 2, but for some of these teams, they're going to be 0-2 after this week. And case in point, that Columbia Union County game, both teams are 0-1 entering that game. Union County went to Jacksonville and took on a pretty good University Christian team up in Jacksonville. We know they've been a perennial power in the past. I was kind of surprised that Union County got beat as soundly as they did, as they lost that game 33-14 on the road. But I did talk to Andrew Thomas about that. He said, first of all, they're a really good football team. They hit us with some big plays early. It took us a while to get in a rhythm on offense. But he said we needed a wake-up call. Last year they went undefeated. They went undefeated anyway during the regular season. They didn't lose until the region final against Chiefland. So for them to lose early in the year, maybe that could be a blessing in disguise for Union County, but a tough one against Columbia this week.
Yeah, I think the jury's still out on Columbia too. You're playing a great team against Buchholz. I think it's pretty clear that Buchholz has a lot of talent. But I'm concerned about Columbia because now there's a blueprint of how to contain Tyler Jefferson, how to play them. And so the question is, can Union County replicate what Buchholz did, do they have enough players to do that to Columbia, or will Tyler Jefferson be more effective against Union County? But I think they're going to have to. Columbia's going to have some players on the perimeter step up to take some of those guys out of the box and to make those safeties back up to open it up for Tyler Jefferson a little bit. He's got to have some help as well. And up front, they just look like they couldn't match up against Buchholz. So does Union County have the players Buchholz does? I'm not sure. Marty, we do have a comment here from a guest on social media.
Get to that. Yeah. How do you feel about the Bell versus Trenton game? And yeah, that's something. Bell 20-7 against Trenton, a bit of an upset, I think. So you would say, although I think Trenton, again, with a first-year coach, struggling a little bit, but Bell wins the rivalry game there. It's a good win for them in week 1.
I think we all picked Trenton to win that game, so obviously I didn't see that coming. But I think, Mike, didn't we discuss this maybe off camera? Coach at Bell's the longest tenured coach in the Tri-County right now. You got an audio issue. You got an audio issue, Mike.
All right, let's try it again. How about now? Can you hear me now?
There we go. We got you.
We're live.
That's because Philip, he's the only head coach that's not new in the Tri-County area. Bronson, Chiefland, Dixie County, Trenton, and Williston all have a new head football coach this year. But yeah, Bell, from what I heard, CJ Gish was at the game for Main Street taking photos. Bell scored on a trick play on the very first play of the game. So they got some early momentum in that game. And then I also talked to Trenton's coach today because that was the debut for Cameron Porch. And he told me that, I mean, we've talked about youth on some of the other teams that we're playing, like PK Young, Gainesville. We know that those are some young teams. But Cameron Porch told me that they've got 8th and 9th graders playing for their football team. So it's a very young football team. But Dixie County, you know, they went to Mayo Lafayette. They got shut out 22-0. That's Brock Kennedy's first game. So you're going to have a matchup of 2 first-year coaches in that football game. Trenton has lost 4 in a row in the series, including they didn't play last year. They lost by 28 a couple of years ago, 2020. But I don't know. I mean, I'm not sure we know how good either one of these teams are, Trenton or Dixie County. What we do know, another situation where one of these teams is going to be 0-2 after this Friday night.
It's hard to hide youth. I think that's been so far a common theme after week 1.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, another comment. Bell also has some 8th, 9th, and 10th. Well, of course they do. Everybody has 8th, 9th, and 10th graders, but I think the comment there is Trenton is, well, they're both young. I mean, this is a rebuild for Trenton. Big time rebuild, and Bell, you know, it's a good. Like I said, it's a good one for Bell. Not going to take anything away from them, but probably a little surprising when you see Bell lose to Trenton or beat Trenton. It's been a little while, but
and remember, so last year Bell graduated 13 seniors, but this year they were kind of looking to improve on the improvement that they had last year. Last year, they were 4-6. So they won as many games as they had the previous 2 seasons combined. They were 2-8 in 2020, 3-7 in 2019. So they won almost as many games as the previous 2 years combined. So there has been some improvement there. Joey Whittington in his 10th season as the head coach. We mentioned, yes, he is the dean. That's because he's also the only head coach, new head coach over there in that Tri-County area. But, they had some guys that they lost that had to step up. It was just a matter of whether or not these guys, like a Zach Powell, for example, who had moved over from wide receiver, how would those guys step up after playing in different roles last year? He was the team's leading receiver last year with 15 receptions, but he's got a new role this year for Bell. So that was a big win for them, no question about it. But now they've got another tough one coming up this week.
Yeah. This is the Prep Zone Football Hour, our second edition. By the way, we had our inaugural Prep Zone Power Poll for the season last week, and we'll have week number 2 coming up later this week. But also we have our pick'ems, which we're going to get to here whenever you guys want to, really. But looking at the Power Poll, Buchholz was ranked number 1. and pretty sure they're going to stay there as we will not get to our second poll. But there's a look at the pick'ems.
I'm already getting beat down week 1.
Sorry, I'm having a hard time seeing. Oh wait, hold on. There we go. Yep, and well, it's not bad. It's a long way to go, Philip.
I felt like maybe under better weather conditions, my guys from Santa Fe there with the pick could have pulled that off. But I think it's tough with a young team to start and stop those games like that.
They led in, most of the games, so yeah, that was looked like a pretty good pick there. Tough loss week 1 for Santa Fe and new head coach Sean Szymanski there. And then on the other side, everybody got East side. Hawthorne, they went to Middleburg. We haven't talked about them yet, but they go to Middleburg and beat a school who was a 3S, used to be a 5A in Middleburg. And Middleburg's getting some votes and some thought that they might be better this year, maybe a postseason team. Hawthorne wins 24-7, so good opening week win for them as they'll host PK Young this week. You mentioned Lafayette taking care of Dixie County. Everybody picked Trenton, so it's in the red. Everybody picked Union County, and then 2 of us picked Trinity Catholic. That was Philip and I, and they nearly pulled that off, but lost by 3 to Florida High in Tallahassee. So tough loss for the Celtics week 1. But they will, in fact, we will see them a week from Thursday here in Gainesville, taking on Gainesville High at Citizens Field. That's coming up September 8th. But Celtics lost to Florida High to end the season last year. They lose to Florida High to begin the season this year in Tallahassee. And then North Marion, who John Patton from the Ocala Star-Banner has told us North Marion's going to be really good this year. And they took care of Forest last week. It was a blowout against a fellow Marion County team.
So just to kind of talk about this Pickens a little bit, Marty. So we are keeping score at the bottom there. You see, unfortunately, I have 6 points. Mike in the middle has 8, yep. And Marty has 7. We're going to come up with something. Somebody's going to have to buy somebody some dinner for winning this thing at the end of the season. So we're going to track it week by week, so our viewers kind of know what's going on.
Yeah, and we're talking about this week too. We're gonna, if you have the games there, we can take a look at.
There we go. Hopefully that showed up.
There it is. Thank you.
And sir. We're gonna go. We're picking games that interest us in the area. We're gonna go for 10 games a week.
Right. And this right now, and this may change a little bit as we go on. It says week 1, but it's week 2. Riverview at Buchholz. That'll be the game you guys broadcast on Friday night. That'll be the radio game of the week on 106.9 FM, which Mike will be broadcasting on Friday night. Gainesville, Bishop Moore, Columbia. And by the way, in that Columbia Union County game, somebody better wear white, somebody better wear gold, because they wear the same uniforms, absolute helmets and everything. It looked like LSU. So hopefully they will wear different uniforms in that game. A rare meeting between Columbia and Union County. And Dixie County and Trenton, Mike mentioned that. Well, Trenton needs a bounce back there. Dixie County does too. Both teams lost week 1. PK Young and Hawthorne, the Blue Wave, are going to be – look, it's going to be tough for them to not be 0-2, I think, after this week. But they will go down the road to Hawthorne. Well, Keystone and Eastside, that's coming up Thursday night. Can Eastside go to 2-0? Williston, they won their opener under Robbie Pruitt against Hamilton County. They will be at Weeki Wachee this week. And Chiefland, who won their opener at Crescent City, is home to West Oaks out of Orlando. And Newberry, Fort White, I like this game. Fort White lost week 1, though, to Taylor County, while Newberry won against Santa Fe. In fact, we're going to talk to Shane Morgan, the voice of the Fort White Indians, coming up. So Fort White will host Newberry. And then Baldwin and Bradford. Bradford, impressive, although I've been told that the Baker County game, I think, was called at halftime, and they're going to finish it maybe in week 7. But Bradford was beating Baker County 21-0 when that game was delayed at halftime.
Yeah, they're going to finish that game, like you said, week 7. But that, by the way, Williston, he did not officially get his first win. That game was also postponed because of weather. They're hoping to play the game later this year, but no official word on that. He did get a win in the preseason, but he's still looking for that first win at Williston High School.
Yeah, there was a lot going on Friday night. I know they were winning. I didn't know if they actually got through that game, but Yeah, like I said, Bradford went to Baker County, was up 21-0 at halftime, which is impressive. And the game was called at halftime. And I was in Jacksonville Friday night. You guys were here, and Jacksonville had some games that were delayed, kind of in the second half or halftime as well. So I know a lot of the games in this area, Gainesville and the Tri County area, were either canceled or delayed Friday night. But as you said, some were played Saturday, some will be played later in the year and finished off.
I do. So I think kind of the routine I'm going to try to get in with these pick'ems is, we may from time to time. I know we're crunched on time tonight with a guest coming on. We may pick them online sometimes. But I'm going to always try to post them up for the Prep Zone viewers on the Prep Zone Twitter and social media. So we'll have that at a later time as well.
Yep, that sounds good. So let's see. Let's go ahead and take a break. And we will come back and be joined by our guests from Fort White, the voice of the Fort White Indians, Shane Morgan, coming up here in just a moment. This is the Prep Zone Football Hour, second edition. We're bringing you here tonight at theprepzone.com, also YouTube, Twitter, all the other places as well that you enjoy podcasts. We'll be back in a moment.
All new 2 for $5 menu at Sonic. Choose a Fritos chili cheese wrap, small jumbo popcorn chicken, or a quarter-pound double cheeseburger. Just $5. The 2 for $5 menu, only at Sonic or in the app.
All right.
Your health is not something to take for granted, so take advantage of the resources that are offered here in Gainesville. Work out anytime, on your own time, at Anytime Fitness of Gainesville, located at 7070 Southwest Archer Road. For more information, call 352-338-7722. That's 338-7722. Or visit them online at anytimefitness.com. Anytime Fitness of Gainesville. Get to a healthier place.
All right. Welcome back. Let's see. There's Mike. Mike Rideout is with me here. Philip Crutchfield stepping away for a few moments, so we will continue the show here with our next segment. And as you can see, we're joined now by our guest, Shane Morgan, the voice of the Fort White Indians. And Shane, good to have you with us. This is our second edition of our podcast. We started a week ago. You're our first guest, in fact.
Well, thank you. It's a pleasure to be here tonight.
Congratulations on being the first guest. So,
Thank you so much. I feel very, very honored about that.
So let's talk. Go ahead and tell a little bit about yourself to the audience, and how long have you been affiliated with Fort White and the their games?
I've been around Fort White in a number of different roles here since 2000 when the school opened, and I've been doing PA on various levels at Fort White for football, basketball, and baseball for the better part of that time. So I've seen just about every athlete has come through Fort White at some point or other, especially on the football field. I've seen them for quite some time, and I do PA for middle school and junior varsity, and then I do the varsity football on the radio myself. So I've seen a lot of good football games. I've missed a total of 4 games over the years since doing Fort White football.
What's been maybe your most exciting game that you've called, whether it be football or any other sport, really?
Goodness, I would say probably one of the most exciting ones. We've had some nail biters and some really good ones with Union County over the years. And also there was one that we had here at home in Arrowhead Stadium back in 2011, I believe. I'm sorry, we got some background noise going on here. But there was one against Wakulla. They came over and played us. We had a 2-hour rain delay to begin. And the ending of the game ended with us scoring on the hook and ladder and winning the game, pulling out the victory. So that was one of the more exciting ones that I can remember right offhand. That's one that I always go to because the Wakulla coaches, they thought they had it locked up and ready to go. But Coach Jackson at the time, he called the hook and ladder, and it worked to perfection. It was just a thing of beauty that night and something to see.
Yep. So last weekend or Friday night, you guys Fort White played Taylor County. You got the whole game in? Or the
Yep, we
weather
got
was
the
kind
whole
of
game
iffy
in.
everywhere. Wow.
Got the whole game in for sure, and had a rain delay to begin it, but we got lucky in that our delay didn't end up being more than about 10, 15 minutes beyond the normal kickoff time we would have had. But they got out to a 14-0 lead, and our kids played hard the whole way through, and just weren't able to get the final score to go ahead. We lost by 5, 22-17, but it wasn't from a lack of effort that game. They came out and they played hard, and Taylor County is one of those that always, no matter when we play, what the records are, is always a tough game for Fort White and Taylor County. It could be 9-1 versus 1-9, and it's going to be a tough game for them to. You never know which way it's going to go. It's one of the rivalry games on our roster, and one of the ones that we played the most. I think that was our 17th or 18th meeting with Taylor County that we've had since football started in 2000.
Wanted to ask you about Lee Dorsett. He coached someone near the area. What have your impressions been so far of him?
The impressions of the team so far? Is that what you're asking, Mike?
No, Lee Dorsett, the new football coach.
Oh yeah. Coach Dorsett, he's bringing in a whole new mindset and a whole new attitude here, and I really like what he's doing so far. Yeah, he's just really coming out and getting some focus to the team, getting the guys are buying into what his program is, and I'm really impressed with what I've been seeing so far.
Yeah, you were talking about Coach Jackson, and Demetri Jackson was the coach there for how many? I mean, many years. I can't remember how many total. But
Yeah.
then a couple of years ago, he got a call to go to Lake City and play for his alma mater, and that's a tough job up there at Columbia. But I know it's been a little strange, having to change coaches there. You had two coaches last year, and then another new coach this year.
Yeah, and quite honestly, we've only Coach Dorsett is only our fourth coach overall. I mean, we
Right.
had Coach Mike Hunter that started from 2000 to 2006. Coach Jackson came in from 07 up through last year, so before last year's season. So about 14 years there. We had the interim head coaches last year with Coach Hart and Coach Snyder, and now Coach
Right.
Dorsett as our fourth head coach. So, that's pretty impressive the run that we've had with football coaches, and all of them have been able to have brought something different to the table, and it's been a very nice fit so far. So I like to see the direction that we're going, and I'm excited. There's been a real buzz and excitement around the program this year.
The voice of the Fort White Indians, Shane Morgan, joining us here on the Prep Zone Football Hour. Shane, Mike asked you about your best memory of a game. I'm going to ask you, who's probably the best player, most talented you've seen come through Fort White so far with this program?
Coming through Fort White itself, I would say probably on the football field, I'd have to go with AJ Lagree, a wide receiver that we had several back 09, 10 in that time frame. But AJ, he initially signed with the University of Kentucky, got a scholarship up there. Then he also had transferred down to South Florida, I believe, after Kentucky. But AJ, he was 6'3", solid rock. He was a man's receiver, and he just, as far as the Fort White Indians that I've seen, he is probably one of the top ones that I've seen come through our program. There's been running backs, Darius Wright. I remember Darius Wright back in 03 had a game. We were over in Lake Butler there once again, and a guy that a lot of us know that have followed prep football, college football, and professional football, CJ Spiller. Darius and CJ, they just went back and forth. You would have thought it was an arena league game the way that they were going on the field back and forth. So, those are some of the ones that I've seen. I also saw LeGarrette Blunt when he played at Taylor County. Saw him play. And actually, the second year when we went over to play Wakulla, Felipe Franks was the quarterback. So those are some of the ones that jump out at me that I remember seeing over the years, both here in Fort White and when we went on the road to play opposing teams.
How about this Friday? Newberry Panthers had 21 unanswered points. They were able to rally and beat Santa Fe. So they'll be entering that game with a lot of confidence. Obviously, Fort White coming off the loss, they need a win. Be tough to go down 0-2. What do you think will be the keys?
Well, it's going to be, our running game is going to be the key to it, and making sure that we get off the ball. Newberry is another one of those competitors that we have. This is like our 18th meeting with Newberry. So they're another one that we've had on the schedule quite regular in our years. And all bets are off when we get together with them, much like I was talking about with Taylor County. So it's going to be a good game. Ball control is going to be an issue. Make sure that we can take control of the ball and timely plays. I mean, I think personally that we have one of the underrated quarterbacks around our area in Clayton Philpott. He's doing a great job for us. Even with the wet ball conditions, he threw some very good passes on Friday night against Taylor County. We just weren't able to follow up on it. But I think the running game is going to be the key for us here, and being able to take advantage of what the Newberry defense presents to our offense.
Now, is that any type of a rivalry? I mean, Newberry and Fort White, there's a little bit of separation between the two schools, but I know that Fort White really kind of dominated the series. I think they won like 8 in a row, and Newberry has kind of flipped the switch. They've won, I think, 3 in a row in the series. So, you know, when you start losing games, sometimes it can kind of become a little bit of a rivalry, especially if you're playing somebody regularly.
Yeah, no doubt. And I would say I would consider it a rivalry. I think I remember we're like 11-7 in our favor right now, but we've dropped, like you said, Mike, the last 2 of 3 that we've had. And so, we're looking to get back on the win column and get back on the winning track against Newberry. So I'm looking forward to a good game. It's going to be an exciting game, and I'm excited to see what we do against them.
Yep, 1A football, it's never easy, is it? Now they call it 1R, but 1A, it was still 1A. Yeah. We'll just go with that. It's never easy. Week in, week out.
That's it. You always got to be ready for the opponent that you have coming. And, you think you know somebody, but they may throw something different at you. You never know what they're going to throw at you whenever it gets to game time, especially with a team that you're so familiar with, like a Newberry, like a Taylor County, and those type of teams.
Hey, I got one more thing for him, Marty, before we let Shane go. Football isn't the only sport that's had some success. Talk about, girls basketball winning a district title. This past spring was pretty special too. I mean, it was a good year for Fort White athletics.
Oh, it really was. And it was funny because it actually last football season, I started being told by the girls' coaches, hey, I think we got something special on the basketball floor whenever the winter months come in, because that's where I go after football, is I go in, I do the PA announcing for the boys and girls varsity basketball teams. And the girls basketball, we had district tournaments. I've not heard our gym that loud in a very long time for any basketball, much less girls basketball. So very proud of them. Looking forward to see what they put back on the table. And then it just carried over into the spring. I remember talking to one of our senior baseball players before a basketball game, one of the tournament games. And he's like, are you ready for baseball? I'm like, I'm ready for baseball. Are you ready for baseball? And because y'all got a lot to live up to coming off the big success of the girls team. And so then we saw what the boys baseball team did, getting to the Final Four for the first time. And then girls softball had an amazing run all the way to the state championship game. And we actually honored our our softball team prior to last week's game against Taylor County. They came out and waved to the fans on the football field and everything. And so very excited to see what all 3 of them are going to do this year. Boys basketball is a team on the rise. They're going to be building up as they continue to go forward and everything. So a lot of excitement here on the campus of Fort White, a lot to be proud of. And, just for me being around for so long, it's been really nice to see so much success come the way of the young men and women playing the sports here. It's just a sight to behold and something that I'm thrilled to be a part of and get to watch on a nightly basis.
Yeah, Mike must have read my mind, because that was exactly what I was going to say to you. He got to me, but yeah, we saw. I had a chance to go down to Fort Myers and see Fort White baseball play. Dixie County there as well. The same for softball. We had over in Claremont working for NFHS Network. Fort White and Dixie County play each other, so it was quite a spring for both those programs. And as you mentioned, Fort White girls basketball, I think it was their first district title. So yeah,
it was.
It was quite a winter and spring there. and Fort White. But now we're in the fall now, so where do you think this team is going to be able to go for Fort White this year? Do you think they have a chance for the postseason again and maybe to get a
Yeah.
few games in?
I think so. I don't think it's out of the question to have an above 500 record with the schedule that we have to be able to make it into the playoffs and hopefully be able to make some noise. I mean, there's some differences between last year's offense and this year's offense, but it hasn't been that drastic of a change. We still have Ken Snyder as defensive coordinator for the football team, and he does a great job on the defense, has for a number of years with us here at Fort White. And it's just been a pleasure to see the young men grow and become part of the program and everything and what they provide. So I think that definitely a winning season and no reason to think that we can't get into the playoffs with the schedule that we have as we look forward.
It's good to have continuity, isn't it? It seems like Fort White has it, and they have it with you there, Shane.
Yeah.
You've been there since day one, like you said. So
Yeah.
doing a little bit of everything.
Yeah.
All
if
right,
I can, one more quick story I wanted to share.
Go ahead.
Yeah, just one more quick story about the baseball team. What was one thing that's really cool is we had a senior, Daniel Gonzalez, that was on the baseball team. His brother actually works for the Minnesota Twins in the complex where the state championship games were held for.
Right.
Yeah. And if fans want to find me on Twitter, I have just look up Shane Train 12, SHAYNE TRAYNE 12. I'm on Twitter there, and you can find me there and talking about Fort White athletics.
Where can you find the Fort White games on Friday nights?
102.1 is a radio station, Power Country 102. And you can download us there. If you're in Lake City, you can listen to us on the radio dial or download the Power Country app, and you can get it that way.
Okay. So, and this week, Newberry coming in. That's, I guess, 7:30 kickoff, right? Friday night.
Yep, 7:30 kickoff as long as Mother Nature cooperates with us.
That's right. And right now, the forecast doesn't look good again, but we'll hope. We were able to get a lot of games in Friday night, despite and last Thursday. But all right, Shane, we'll appreciate it. Good stuff, and thank you for coming on here on the Prep Zone Football Hour.
Thank you, Shane.
Yep, I appreciate being the first guest. Thank you all for having me.
Thank you, Shane. Shane Morgan, voice of the Fort White Indians there, as Mike Rideout and I, it's got really dark in here. It's, here we go. Yeah, the lights. I'm trying to, I opened up the blinds, and of course, immediately it was dark, and then the sun came back out, so I had to close them, and now it's getting kind of dark in here at 7:45. But that was a good guest there. Shane, great job. Yeah, I've never met him, but I know I've heard about him, and that's it's kind of neat when you're with a school from the beginning, and he's done a little bit of everything for them for about 22 years. It sounds like since school opened in 2000.
It sounds like Fort White's geared up for a good season too. I was concerned anytime you have a coaching change and a coach goes to a nearby rival school, what's going to happen? Where's the program projected and the trajectory of the program? So good to see Fort White sticking with it and making progress.
Yeah, I mean, you look at their schedule. I see maybe 500 again. They've got Newberry this week, Keystone Heights next week. I think they can beat Hamilton County on the road. Williston on the road might be tough. They've got Lafayette at home. I like their chances just because they're at home, but Lafayette's not a bad club either. Dixie County on the road. Again, we'll know more about Dixie County this week. Ridgeview out of Orange Park, Chiefland, and Santa Fe. So I really I see a chance to get to 500 this year. That may or may not be enough to get them in the postseason, but we'll see.
Yeah, that Fort White has a rivalry with Santa Fe. They're really right down the road from each other. Alachua and Fort White's right over the border there in Columbia County. But that's an interesting schedule. And by the way, we talked about Dimitri Jackson. He was there. 14 years. He was their head coach. He was also the athletic director. He was the mayor of Fort White for a while. And then of course, like you said, Columbia came calling. He played there, and he took over for Brian Allen up there a couple years ago. But he kind of built that Fort White program. I mean, they've made it to the third round of the postseason. They made it one game away from the state championship game a couple times. They had some runs in the postseason there. Of course, they ran into Madison County, like a lot of teams do, and that's who knocked them out a few times in the playoffs. So, All right. Well, we appreciate Shane again for coming on. By the way, next Monday we will not have a show due to Labor Day. So we will return in 2 weeks from 7 to 8 p.m. for our third edition. And I guess we'll have a lot of picks to go over at that point because we'll have week 2 and 3 to talk about as well. But right now, looking ahead to week 2, guys, and we just talked a little bit about Fort White. They're playing Newberry. We talked earlier about Columbia and Union County. But any other games we look at this week? I guess another game we haven't really talked about, PK Young and Hawthorne. And I mean, the Blue Wave, it's going to be tough for me to see them not going 0-2 the way going to Hawthorne this week.
Yeah, I don't see them winning that game. They just have to hope that they don't get embarrassed in that game.
And you're on the road too.
Yeah, Hawthorne playing at home, they're just so good. They were down early against Middleburg and ended up scoring the final 24 points of the game. So that's just going to be a tough matchup for PK Young. And I with their youth, I just don't see them being able to compete.
Yeah. Gainesville is on the road, going to Orlando to play Bishop Moore. They beat Bishop Moore. Mike, you broadcast this game last year. Was it 14-6? It was a defensive battle.
Yeah, but a lot of those defensive guys are gone, graduated.
Yeah.
And
right, and they're going to need to score some points. Right, they're going to need to score some points down there against Bishop Moore. That's the thing. Trinity Catholic comes in next week, so yeah, this is a tough opening for Gainesville. It seems like, and it's going to be tough for them to win in Orlando this week as well.
They could easily be 0-4, easily.
Gainesville, yeah.
Yeah, because then who's the fourth game? They play Buchholz.
Well, they got Trinity Catholic the week after that. That one will be at home on a Thursday night.
Right. That's our game next. We're going to broadcast that next Thursday, the 8th. But yeah, I'm trying to think who the fourth game is.
And I can see them losing that game to Trinity Catholic.
Oh yeah.
Go ahead.
No, I mean, I think did you broadcast that game last year too? Was it like 7-3?
Yeah, it was definitely a defensive game. Yeah. So and then let's see, the week after that they've got Green Cove Springs Clay. Also on Thursday night, district game. Yep. So
yeah. Clay got beat by Fleming Island 49-7. Although I think Fleming Island's pretty good, but that's not a great start for the Clay Blue Devils.
Well, and with that game for GHS being on the now on the road at Vanguard, so you're opening up. Just looking at the schedule here with 4 straight road games essentially, even though it was supposed to be a home game for that first contest.
Yeah, and if you remember last year's game, Ryan Nolan came in at quarterback because Shuby got hurt in the first game of the year. So Ryan Nolan came back and actually helped win that game at quarterback. I mean, he was a good defensive player too. So
he's at Army now, so he's not there either.
That's right. So they've lost a lot of key players from last year's district championship team. And again, we don't know. Was it a case of Gainesville is not as good as we thought they had a chance to be? Is it that Vanguard could be better than we thought they may have a chance to be? Is it a combination of the two? We just don't know. But we do know that Gainesville is a young football team. They've got a new quarterback this year, transfer from Eastside High School, just a sophomore though. So there's that youth again.
Yeah.
So
and I don't think there's any world where Vanguard should be 68 points better than Gainesville, but I think you're right. I think Vanguard is good, very good, and they're usually good though. I mean, they're 11-1, 12-1 every year. But I think Gainesville is young, very young. Philip said it. They're going to have it might just be a tough year there. They may
10
have
seniors.
How many
seniors?
10
seniors for Gainesville.
That's it on the whole team. And again, it's tough to play week 1 against a team like Vanguard. That's a really good team. That's probably not the best matchup to open your season with, especially with a new quarterback. And we'll see. I mean, if they go to Orlando, and I'm sure they'll put together a closer or better performance against Bishop Moore, or at least be closer. Again, the next 2 weeks, Bishop Moore and Trinity Catholic. We'll see how it goes. I mean, like you said, Trinity Catholic, that'll be at home. So that'll be a little bit different for them next week. But East Side, we'll see them on Thursday night. Philip, of course, very high on East Side, and he's right. And for the first week, as they beat PK Young, a very young PK Young team, but Holden Johnson played like a senior quarterback should, and that's what's going to make East Side interesting to watch this year. Keystone Heights hasn't played a game. They were, I think, 10-2 a year ago, made it the second round of the playoffs. But it'll be a test.
Won their first playoff game in school history.
They did, and this is going to be a test for East Side. But it's Keystone Heights' first game of the year, and they're replacing a lot of guys as well. Chuck Dickinson's team.
So it's the first year for Holden Johnson, really, since probably Quan Lee was on the roster with him as a freshman. So that he's had people to throw to, and I think you're seeing that he does have that ability. He does have a skill set, and now he's got some talent around him that's kind of come of age too. So the touchdowns he threw were not screen passes. They were deep balls. He's reading the coverage well, seeing the field. I'm interested to see Keystone, though. That's a team that always seems to be in the area that's pretty sound, and it'll be a good test for Eastside. And I think if they're going to take the next step, they've got to be able to beat a team like Keystone that's going to be well prepared, that's going to have a good game plan for what they do, who they haven't seen on film. So how does the new coaching staff at Eastside deal with that? Keystone has a lot of new players, but they don't have any film. So how do you adjust for that as a new staff?
Well, and also remember Keystone Heights coming off of back-to-back boys weightlifting titles, and that has helped them in the trenches. They won't have their running back they had last year that was really good, but that I think if they're going to have a chance against Eastside, thank you, Cruise fan, appreciate it. If they're going to have a chance on Thursday night, then it's going to have to start in the trenches for Keystone Heights.
And Chuck Dickinson, I believe, has got to be the dean of coaches in this area. 25, 26 years. I know there hasn't been a coach that's been in the school longer than that. And he was a Keystone Heights grad. He's stayed there as a coach, and now he's the head coach. But I can tell you one thing: Keystone Heights usually does smash mouth. They're going to run it. They're going to run it a lot, and that's going to be interesting for Eastside. Like Mike said, the weightlifting titles, they're strong, they're big boys, and Eastside's going to have to deal with that coming up, especially defensively on a Thursday night. And you know that might be an issue, but it looks like Eastside still they've got some players.
I think it's going to be good on good watching the Chiefland contest in the kickoff game for Eastside and PK. Eastside was stout against the run. They did give up some deep balls to PK where, either a busted coverage or, the defensive back just not covering the ball properly. So they've got some work to do in the secondary. So I wonder if, Keystone comes in, sees that, and maybe takes a few shots after setting up the run.
Also, I don't know if you know the answer to this, Philip, but I did throw this out there earlier to you guys. If Eastside beats Keystone Heights this week, it would be their first 2-0 start since 2009. You told me that the key was getting Buchholz off the schedule in week 1. So they did, and they got a win against PK, and now a chance to go to 2-0.
Well, I think, anytime you're a coach, you like to try to build that momentum. And that's something I think that Eastside's got the ability to maybe take advantage of a different calibrated schedule and try to see what it's like to have a little momentum going into the Buchholz game week 3. So that's always a big time matchup and a big time atmosphere. But it'll give if they can beat Keystone, they'll have a lot of confidence going into that game.
Yeah.
Well, if you look back at our first episode last week, you'll see where Mike Radout predicted that his most improved team this year would be St. Francis Catholic, and
so far that's wrong.
Sorry to call you out on this one, but yeah, that was not so much week 1. They went down.
Well, remember, they only have to win one game this year.
That's true. And Indian Rocks Christian, that's a tough place to go to play week 1, and they lost 49-0.
Yeah, now Williston could win 2 games, and then they would be the most improved team. So I took my chances on the team that only needed 1 win.
You're right. Now.
Yeah, St. Francis is young too. They when we were doing the show on last Wednesday, they only had 3 seniors on that roster. So that seems to be a theme too. If you're young, you're going to have a tough year.
Yeah.
Yes.
Did they? By the way, I haven't heard. Is Oak Hall making up that game, or they only played a quarter, didn't they?
Okay, I texted Coach Fuhrer to ask him about that, and his response to me was, I think they are calling it a win. Their coach said, nice win to me. And our director of the SSAC said, then it's a win. So it
didn't they only
sounds
play a
like it was,
quarter? Did they play a half?
they played a quarter. So
did?
apparently it's
Wow.
going to go down as an Eastside victory, or Eastside, as an Oak Hall victory in just one quarter of play. So
that might be SSAC rules. I know the FHSA doesn't usually do things like that. You got to play a half or more to make it official. But hey, good for Oak Hall. That means they're 1-0.
I know we only have a couple minutes here,
Yeah.
but I see Cruise fan is ask another question. What led to Santa Fe losing? Philip and I actually watched the first half of that game on TV, and honestly, it was Santa Fe that was playing pretty well and looking like the better team. Then we left, and then actually Philip, you and I both found a link that we could watch the game late, and Newberry scored 21 unanswered points. I didn't really see what turned the game. I don't know how much of it you saw, but obviously Newberry scored 21 unanswered points to win that game.
So they started off delayed, then got into the game, then had that late delay. So all that happened after that second delay. So you got to wonder, is this youth of Santa Fe showing up, maybe not knowing how to handle that situation? But you got to tip your hat if you're Joe Szymanski and Santa Fe to Ed Johnson for making needed adjustments. So that's a credit to that staff and keeping the guys ready during a lightning delay and a weather delay with all the hype going on with the TV game in town and a lot of distractions. So clearly they were the more focused team coming out of that delay.
And I did get some feedback from Joe Szymanski about that loss. He said the biggest reason that they lost that game is their lack of experience and depth. That seems to be a common theme for a lot of teams in our area. But he said they beat themselves. They had costly penalties. They missed some assignments. He said their coaching staff has to actually do a better job too. They got to make sure they keep the kids rotated so they don't get gassed during the game. But he mentioned that they're trying to rebuild the program. He said one day at a time, one game at a time. So their goal is to just kind of keep getting better and better. So they were competitive, 27-13 lead, as I mentioned before, the 21 unanswered by Newberry. So they almost pulled that game out. They've got Santa Fe's got Lanier County out of Lakeland this week. I don't know anything about them, but at least it's in Alachua. Yeah, out of Lakeland.
Georgia or Florida?
Lanier County out of Lakeland, Florida, I think.
I think that's Georgia.
Yeah, Lanier County is Georgia.
Like I said, I don't know anything about them.
Yeah. No, I think he's right. I've heard of Lakeland in Georgia. I think it's Lanier County, but because Lakeland and Florida is Polk County. But that's interesting. They're going to play a Georgia school coming, and that's their home opener. But it sounds to me like Santa Fe's pretty improved, though. I mean, they're going to win some games this year.
They look very functional on offense, and so I think they already have that new staff's having an impact already.
Yeah.
Well, before we wrap up, I guess that's right after 8:00. What's the game of the week this week? What game are you guys looking forward to kind of seeing how it works out?
I think for me, there's probably two of them. Mm-hmm. I like to see how Trenton does after that loss, but Dixie County also, because both those teams are playing not to be 0-2. One of those teams will be winless after 2 games. But the other game that I'm looking forward to is how does Union County bounce back and respond against a good Columbia team? And Andrew Thomas was telling me, he said, I don't think Columbia and Union County, surprisingly, have ever played. This might be the first time in their history. He said, as far back as we could find records, we don't have Columbia playing Union County.
Yeah, I believe that. They haven't played either.
Yeah.
Well, Marty, since Mike picked 2, I'm going to pick 2. So I gotta say, Union County, Columbia. I want to see who's going to bounce back and whose season's going to take a turn for the worse. and who can make those adjustments as a staff. I always like to try to see who's able to manage their players through that adversity of a loss. And then I want to know if Eastside is a contender or a pretender against Keystone, and I also want to see what Keystone is like since they didn't play week 1.
Yeah, I would. I was actually going to say that Eastside. I guess I'll take 2 as well. Eastside and Keystone would be a game that I agree with. I would say Columbia Union County, but since both of y'all have said that, I'll go away from that and say Newberry and Fort White. It's going to be a game that I'm interested to see if Fort White can even their record at home. Newberry trying to go to 2-0 after a big win over Santa Fe. That'll be a tough assignment going on the road. And Mike said Dixie County Trenton may have been the next one, but he already picked that as well. So anytime you got a game where like both teams have lost a week 1 trying to go 0-2, it's a big one. So I think Dixie County Trenton and Columbia Union County are both going to be huge for those teams. But well, all right, we've already got through an hour. This goes pretty fast here, I'd say. And want to thank Shane Morgan, the voice of the Fort White Indians. Oh, by the way, Wednesday night, the Prep Zone Sports Show, 106.9 FM, 7-8 p.m. here in Gainesville. Joshua Wilson will be the guest, correct?
FloridaHSFootball.com.
Football.com. So that'll be Wednesday night. We live video and radio there. Thursday night, we will have Eastside and Keystone Heights. I believe that's set for a 7 o'clock kick at Citizens Field, 6:45 pregame. And then Friday night, Mike will have as the game of the week on radio, Buchholz and Sarasota Riverview.
That game is a 7:30 kick, so we'll be on the air at 7 o'clock with our pregame coverage. Not only 106.9 IM Country, but also streaming video on the Prep Zone YouTube page.
Right.
And there are other social media platforms.
Yeah, we'll have streaming video Thursday night of Eastside and Keystone Heights. All right. Well, busy week coming up. Looking forward to another one. And then Gator football on Saturday. Finally, it's a Gator game week, too.
Best time of the year.
Hopefully, weather permitting.
That's true. The weather doesn't look great Saturday either, but hopefully the Gators of Utah will kick off Saturday night at 7:30 in the Swamp. That should be a lot of fun. But it should be a lot of fun as well this week for our high school games. We appreciate, again, our guest, Shane Morgan. Thanks for all the questions, too, coming in today as we bring you the second episode of the Prep Zone Football Hour. For Philip Crutchfield, for Mike Rideout, I'm Marty Paulman saying so long